Welcome to the Blockoff YouTube channel. Today we're going to be working on this Rockola Supersound 2 jukebox. In the last part we discussed why the dollar bill acceptor unfortunately is not really repairable. Today we're going to be replacing the dollar bill acceptor with a Blockoff plate. It would have originally had a Blockoff plate with a little plastic insert in the middle with that little weird looking R in the center for Rockola, and that's what it would have had if it didn't originally have a dollar bill acceptor optioned with it. So that's what we're going to be putting back on it. Unfortunately I don't have any of those plates, so we got to make it custom, same with that little middle piece. Which means we can do a little bit of customization and add a free credit button. Basically, when you push it, it would hopefully add $1 worth of credits, so you could simply play your songs without having to either put quarters in or opening it up and hitting the add credit button, because this is most likely going to be going into somebody's home. And then ultimately, if they don't want that button, they can always just unhook the button. So what we're going to do today is design that button. Unfortunately, to design that plastic piece, I didn't have a physical one on hand. The only one of these I've ever had I ended up selling many years ago on a jukebox. But I was able to find this rather blurry photo of one online, and as you can see, that's what it looks like, roughly. And here's what I came up with. It's far from exact, but it's roughly there. The circle's a lot fatter on this one, but it's a little bit different for a reason. As you can see, my goal is to have this mounted right there on the plate, and this little Rockola button is actually the button. You'd press that in to hit your free credits. Now, unfortunately, this print kind of got messed up. I didn't have my tolerances right because I had to print this in one piece, and my tolerances wasn't quite perfect, so when I went to break this middle button free from the rest of the print, it broke that one side off. I also found I need a more centered spring because only having it pushed down on this side makes it get stuck. So that hopefully should all be fixed in prototype number 2, and if this works, we'll print it out of resin and get it all painted up properly. My least favorite part about 3D printing is peeling off supports. This is a pain, especially when it's like incredibly thin supports. Those are the worst. There we go. Now I have to work this button back and forth a whole bunch to get it nice and freed up. Now for mounting, I designed this thing to use a normal arcade, well, button nut, I guess you'd call it. The issue is I designed this thing with a weird oval-shaped base because obviously round made it stick out past everything else. So that's going to be real fun to cut in the middle, and then also I have these posts here so it doesn't rotate when it's in the metal, but I guess if I properly cut out that oval shape, that won't even matter. And for the actual button, I'm using this little arcade micro switch, and when you press this, it obviously presses that. The issue is it's not returning. Obviously, I'm going to have to work this back and forth a whole bunch. That one that I broke is actually quite smooth at actuating, so I'm sure this one will get pretty smooth after working back and forth a whole bunch, but I also designed it to have a spring in there, so it'll have a little bit more force to push it back out. And there we have it. Now, there's a few things I need to do. I need to make these a lot stronger. As you can see, that one broke off and I had to plastic weld it back on. But, as you can see now, we have ourselves a functional button. Now, I'm going to go through and make sure all my tolerances are good, and then I'm going to print this out of resin. I might not need to change any tolerances for resin just because it's going to be printing out a much higher quality, and I shouldn't need as much spacing for my tolerances as I do for FDM printing. So ultimately, I think I honestly should be able to just throw ahead and throw this on the resin printer after I reinforce those arms, and we should be good, I think. So I said previously I was going to print this out of resin, but my resin printer wanted to be stupid and not print stuff correctly, so I didn't. We're going to print it out of this normal FDM, and we're going to make it smooth a much more difficult method. So let's make this smooth. There we go. Now I'm going to sand this with some very high grit sandpaper just to smooth everything out even more. Now we need to smooth out the center logo there, then we can start painting this thing. There we go. Now we're going to spray this thing black, and then we'll paint the white highlights. Now that we have our fancy custom button painted, it's time to build our metal plate that this will actually mount to. So what I'm going to do is pop off this outer ring so I can get the size of the metal plate that I need and where the holes need to be drilled for that plate. And then we're going to have to figure out how to cut this weird oval shape into the metal. So this is just held on with some little clips here. Just squeeze this together and you can pull them off. This piece we're not going to reuse, but this outer piece we will. This piece here will just be replaced with our flat piece of metal. These clips are pretty simple. Just squeeze them and pull them straight off, just like that. We got a couple to go. I think there's just 5, so I'm going to pull off all 5 and pull this apart. Got this piece of steel here. It's decently thick. It should be plenty strong enough. We just need to cut this out right here and we'll have our perfect shape. I went ahead and printed off this little template so I can easily see exactly where I need to cut. Now, if I had a plasma cutter, this would be really easy, but I don't have a plasma cutter, so this is going to be a lot more complicated. Basically, you're going to have to just cut this out of a bunch of little holes, I guess. Unfortunately, the rest of it's going to have to be done with a file. This is going to take a while. And just like that, we have our installed Rockola button. So now we need to drill the mounting holes for around this thing, and then, I guess, we'll be off to sandblasting and powder coat. There we go, we got those holes drilled, so now it's time to throw this in sandblaster, get rid of all this surface rust, and then we can get this thing nicely powder coated. In a few minutes, we will have a beautiful looking part. Part of me was thinking I should just paint this thing, it'll be faster, it'll be easier, And while easier, yes, it's a lot easier to grab a spray paint can than to pull out the air compressor, air hose, powder coating setup, get all that set up, do it, turn on the oven, preheat the oven. But technically, if I include the drying time of the paint, this is way faster. This will be done in like less than half an hour. The paint, technically doesn't cure for like 24 hours. We're waiting on that powder coat to dry. Why don't we get this actually to function and figure out our wiring for this? Basically, we have a total of 6 wires, and when you bridge 2 of them together, it should give us $1 credit. We have to figure out which 2 and not blow everything up in the process. Now, I'm basically just going to take a multimeter here and do some probing and figure out which ones of those wires I need to short together to get this thing to give me a credit, and hopefully not blow it up in the process. So, I found which pins it is. It's pin 3 and 4 on here. This one and this one. The issue is, you have to go so incredibly fast to only get 7 credits. What the hell did I just select? Auto select top hits. That's what I've selected. Let's hope I have records in those. But that could be an issue, because if you click this down for more than a millisecond, you get 40 some credits. So what we might end up having to do is modify this to have a... Okay. So what I might have to do is basically build some kind of relay system. What the hell are you doing? I'm going to ignore that for now. Basically, that whenever you press this, you can hold it down for a second or 2, but then it will only give a 1 millisecond pulse. So it actually, you press it, it only gives you 7 instead of you press it and it gives you 98. So that might be something we're going to have to do, because otherwise we're probably going to run into some issues. Now, unfortunately, I don't actually have any of those 4-pin Molex connectors. I only have 3-pin ones, so we're going to have to order those. But for now, we're just going to shove some wires in it, and that should work enough to test this thing out and see if it's going to work at all. Okay, let's give this a test. If I click this, it should add... Yeah, that's going to be our problem. As you can see, when I click it, it adds way too many credits. What happens if I go over 100? It circles back around. Does it actually just have 100, or does it have 133? I don't know. I'm just going to clear those credits, but... Yeah, we're going to have to build some kind of adapter board that whenever this is clicked, it just sends I don't know, a 50 millisecond, or just, I don't know exactly how long it needs to be, but a very, very quick pulse to that. And I think that will probably work, and that's probably going to be our best bet, because ultimately, while this is nice, I don't want you to just click it and then you just have a bajillion credits. I think it would be nicer to click it and you just get the 7 that you would for $1 or whatever you program it to be. So I think that's what we're going to have to do. I lost my actual extension cord for my oven, and I was using this one. I should probably not use this one. It's got a little hot. Just a small amount hot. It's not quite supposed to be quite that bendy. I should probably not use this on this. This probably is pulling well too many amps for this extension cord. Well, that's pretty obvious, I guess. There we go. That looks absolutely beautiful. We got that thing attached, so let's put this thing in the cabinet and see how it looks. There we go. That looks absolutely fantastic. Let's get this thing powered on and see how it functions. Again, it's not going to function that well. It's going to add way too many credits, but let's plug it in and find out. Okay, so as you can see, we have 0 credits in the machine, and when we press this fancy little R, boom, 84 credits. So as I said, we're going to have to build a custom board to make it so it doesn't add an insane amount of credits when it's pressed, just adds $1 worth, but for now, at least, this will function, but I think this is going to work incredibly well. As you can see, it blends in. If you had an original one of these with the original dollar bill block-off plate, it would look very similar, though probably slightly duller white. That white is very pronounced, but that looks pretty good. Now, ultimately, the dollar bill block-off plate on this one probably would have been brown, I guess, maybe to match everything, but I mean, it does have black accents, so I guess maybe. I don't really know. I can't say as I've ever seen a tan one of these with the dollar bill block-off plate. There's not many dollar bill block-off plates that were ever installed on these, because most of the people that bought these jukeboxes for in their, well, businesses wanted a dollar bill acceptor, so it was pretty rare to get one optioned without a dollar bill acceptor. But if you like what you saw, please leave a like and subscribe. We got a lot more stuff to do. Hopefully some of you are new over from TikTok, since that's most likely going to be getting banned next week. Hopefully some of you have come joined over here. With it getting banned, I'm sure I'll have a lot more time to work on better projects and more projects, and maybe I'll start uploading more than once a week. Who knows?